Please give a warm round of applause for Mr. Lope Doromal Jr.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. It's an honor for me to be invited in this event today. And please, first of all, allow me to congratulate ASTI for this wonderful event. I'm really impressed with the agenda and the audience that they put together this morning. My objective this morning is to share with you some thoughts around how Microsoft goes about developing our AI-related products and services with responsible AI in mind, right? I think nowadays we can all agree that AI is sort of the top-of-mind technology for a lot of people, right? The challenge, I think, that we have with AI is the fact that while a lot of people are very optimistic about the capabilities of AI, there's also a lot of concerns about potential adverse effects that AI will have in society, right? From people losing jobs, from people using AI to create fraud and cybercrime, and so on, right? As an organization, Microsoft very early on recognized that for us to be a successful vendor and technology provider in this area, trust must be central in all of our capabilities, right? We must develop products and services that our clients, people like us here in the room, trust with their information, with the ability to perform actions, and so on, right? So, what's Microsoft's approach to AI? We've made significant investments in this area because we realize the potential of this technology and the good that it can deliver, right? I'm not sure if you've heard of this, but today there are only 2 companies in the world with a market capitalization of over $4 trillion. That's with the letter T, right? The first company to reach that hallmark is NVIDIA, which you've all probably heard of also. And the second company only last week was Microsoft. And if you think about it, what's the common thread that runs across these 2 companies? AI, right? So, Microsoft is committed to bringing technology and people together with AI, but we are also not blind to the concerns that society has around this technology. And we have long invested in building safety and security within our products. So let me share how we do this within the organization. Right? As early as 2019, right? So way before all of this hype around ChatGPT and generative AI, Microsoft established the Office of Responsible AI, or ORA, right? The mandate of the Office of Responsible AI is to ensure that Microsoft adheres to our AI principles, which you see on the right-hand side of this chart, right? What's unique about the Office of Responsible AI is the fact that it sits across the whole Microsoft organization. It's not aligned to a specific department. It's not part of research, it's not part of policy, it's not part of engineering. Right? It's headed by the Microsoft president and reports directly to the executive leadership. Right? So the responsibility of this organization is to ensure that whatever products and services we come up with, we abide by these 5 AI principles. Any AI technology that we develop must have accountability, right? Must be transparent, must be fair, must be reliable and safe, and must ensure privacy and safety. I won't really go into each of these principles. I think, whenever you hear the term AI principles, you're going to see a combination of these 5 principles, right? Different organizations may name them in different ways and so on, right? But perhaps what I would like to share with you is what is our strategy to ensure that we can deliver on those principles. And by sharing this, I hope that maybe, your own organizations can also look at some of these techniques as you develop your own strategy towards artificial intelligence. So the responsible AI standard in Microsoft consists of these 4 things. So at the highest level is, of course, the principles, right? So what are the enduring values that guide our work towards responsible AI? Those are the 5 things that I showed earlier, rather 6 things, right? Underneath each of those principles are goals. What are the outcomes that we want to secure towards each of the principles, right? And then for each of those goals, we define requirements. What are the steps that we must take in order to achieve the goals? And then lastly, we develop tools and practices, which basically gives guidance in terms of how can the different groups within the organization meet the requirements that we have set up. Okay? We are actually now in version 2 of our responsible AI standard. And I think the way that we have evolved from version 1 to version 2 is very interesting for organizations who may be interested in developing their own standards, right? So this chart sort of summarizes how those standards have evolved. Let me give you some specific examples, and I need my cheat sheet, okay? So the structure of version 1 was really more around giving narrative guidance around each of the principles. So for example, we would say fairness is a complex concept that is deeply contextual. AI systems can behave unfairly for a variety of reasons. Some social, some technical, and some a combination of both, right? Very high level, subject to interpretation, okay? In version 2 of the standard, we defined specific goals for fairness. So specifically, we said there are 3 goals that we want to achieve to make sure that our AI technology is fair. Number 1, around quality of service. Number 2, around allocation of resources and opportunities. And then number 3, minimization of stereotyping, demeaning, and erasing outputs. Okay? Still high level, so we'll break it down further. In terms of clarity, in version 1, it was quite open-ended, and we gave a lot of leeway for interpretation and so on. So for example, teams are encouraged to detect and mitigate fairness issues. But this process was open-ended and required subjective judgment. Okay? In version 2, we now set specific, measurable requirements for each of the goals that we have defined earlier. So for example, for quality of service, we said we will require teams to evaluate and document how AI systems perform across different demographic groups. Okay? For the goal of allocating resources and opportunities, we said we will mandate documentation on how resources are distributed and whether any group is disadvantaged. For goal number 3, we said we will directly address harms like reinforcing stereotypes or underrepresenting certain groups. Okay? So hopefully that sort of gives you how the standards have evolved. With regards to examples, in version 1, unfortunately, the document is internal, so I couldn't really share it. But when you look at the version 1 of the document, we gave lots and lots of examples in terms of how AI can be unfair. Right? So for example, one of those examples that caught my eye is an image captioning system may be more likely to label an image of a woman carrying a stethoscope as a nurse rather than as a doctor, right? Because of societal stereotypes, right? So we gave examples like this in version 1. But in version 2, rather than just giving examples, we specified actionable steps. So for example, we said, identify and prioritize demographic groups, including marginalized groups that may be at risk or subject to stereotyping, demeaning, or erasing outputs of the system. So we told our researchers, we told our developers, these are the specific actions you need to take to ensure that the AI system is fair. And of course, in terms of support tools, in version 1, we basically said, we encourage collaboration, you can seek out expertise for advice, and so on. In version 2, we became prescriptive. We said, document the prioritized identified demographic groups using this impact assessment template. Right? So it's black and white. You need to ensure that no demographic group is unfairly treated in whatever AI entity is being developed, right? Another area, specific area of concern in Microsoft is what we consider as sensitive uses for AI. There is a second level of screening that happens in Microsoft when an AI system is determined to have consequential impact, could cause physical or psychological injury, or could be a threat to human rights. Right? If a project is deemed to meet any of these criteria, then they pass through a second level of screening to ensure that there is extra safety built within the systems, right? It's interesting to note that as of 2024, 77% of all projects that underwent sensitive use consultation is related to generative AI. So it's really Gen AI that's becoming the focus of AI work nowadays. Right? While I cannot share some of those AI standards that I shared earlier, you can access a lot of the work that Microsoft has done around AI through our transparency reports. So the URL is there. If you click on the QR code, you can also access the report. I encourage people to download the report, not so much maybe for the actual content, but for me, the more interesting thing is the appendix, the references in that report. It's a really rich set of references that I think a lot of people that are doing work around AI will find useful. Right? So if you have the time, I have shared a copy of this presentation, so maybe you can request for a copy from the organizers if you're interested to get a copy of this presentation and the URL. Right? I'd like to end this presentation with this 5-point blueprint for governing AI. So this is the same blueprint that we follow within the organization, and maybe we would also recommend to both our government and private sector partners. Right? Number 1, implement and build upon new government-led AI safety frameworks. If you're on the government side, then maybe leverage on international and regional standards that are already being developed. So for example, NIST already has developed an AI safety framework. And a lot of the safety framework we use in Microsoft is also based on the NIST standard. Right? Number 2, require safety breaks for AI systems that control critical infrastructure. Right? So while AI can become autonomous, we need to make sure that there is still manual override possible, especially if that AI entity controls critical infrastructure. Number 3, develop a broader legal and regulatory framework based on the technology architecture for AI. Again, the legal, I guess this is another area for debate nowadays. How much control should government have over AI? And I don't think there's a correct or a wrong answer at this point, right? But what's important is that we understand the capabilities and we ensure we build safety into whatever systems we build. Number 4, promote transparency and ensure academic and public access to AI, which I think ASTI is already doing, right? They're developing a lot of these projects that the public can also use, and they're also partnering with academic institutions in these projects. And then, of course, lastly, pursue private-public partnerships to use AI as an effective tool, right? So, you know, I think we are at a major inflection point in terms of IT technology, right? The way we're going to use IT in the future, in the next maybe 5 years, is going to be completely different because of AI, right? A lot of companies, technology leaders are already predicting the end of the smartphone as we know it today, right? So, you know, these are interesting times. I hope, you know, we are all looking forward to how this technology will develop. And while there are concerns, there are ways to address those concerns and make sure we develop and create AI technology in a responsible manner. Okay? With that, I'd like to thank everyone for your attention this morning. I think we have a panel afterwards so we can answer questions during the panel. Thank you very much.